But I'm going to start just by giving you a bit of an idea about who I am and what I do. I run a company called Mosaic in Colchester, and we now call ourselves the Integrated Marketing Agency as opposed to Mosaic Publicity, which is what we used to be. And that's because over the years we've had to embrace digital as part of our mantra of what we do. And a side discipline of what we offer is media training. And one of the things I'm going to be doing shortly is taking you through a little journey of the last 30 years of my life, but linking it into the changing world of digital, which sounds not very exciting, but I promise you it's really fascinating. I realised that the way of the world was digital, went back to university and did a master's in digital, which I finished 3 years ago at Manchester Metropolitan, a course that started in London, then got transferred to Manchester, which I was delighted about, living on Mersey Island. And I have a first degree in publishing and computing. So for our computing bods here, that's what I did. I have a Google Analytics qualification, and actually my profession is I'm a journalist, a former newspaper, radio and television reporter. So what I'm going to be doing is talking to you about the evolving world of the media, the changing world of digital, past, present and future, which we're going to have a great discussion on. I've got a little bit about digital strategy that I'm going to talk to you about. And what I hope is by the end of the next 20 to 30 minutes, you'll have a bit more insight. We're literally having a snapshot in that short time, but enough for us to trigger a discussion with all you very clever people in the room about what you think about the world of digital as well. And obviously Mr. Zuckerberg has been keeping us very entertained over the last few weeks, definitely. Who remembers typewriters? Got some very young people in the room who aren't nodding their heads. That's slightly worrying. Who knows what that thing is on the right-hand side? Do you know what that is on the right-hand side there? No. That was our first ever office mobile phone. And I'm not going back that far. So when I started as a journalist, we had a massive mainframe computer. Personal computers had only just come in. And very regularly we had to get down the old typewriters. And I was very excited if I got sent out with the office mobile phone that looked like a brick. And we're not talking about that many years ago. For many of us, it's in our lifetime, it's in our memory. It's not that far. And one of my former colleagues very kindly sent me this photograph. It is to prove that I really always have had bad hair. And that is a typical perm, early 1990s. That was 1991. But what is unusual about that photograph compared to today?
Lots of paper. Lots
of paper. There's something actually about a pile of paper here that is really weird. Those little brown envelopes, what are they? Telephone directory. It isn't actually, but there were a few of those around. Any other thoughts?
Are they paper packets?
No, they're not paper packets. But they look like it. That was, P45 is probably that. That was actually the office filing system. When we'd written articles for the newspaper, this was for the Gazette in Colchester every day, they'd get cut out by Rita in the library and she'd stick them in an envelope, and that was how we filed things. If we wanted to bring back information, we had to go up to the library, we had to phone people, we had to talk to people, we had to look at encyclopedias. Do you know what an encyclopedia is? Yeah, you've heard of an encyclopedia, that's good. Because that's all we had. We didn't have the internet. And anything else unusual about this particular photograph? Anything about the equipment? Ancient. Big computer screens. And in fact, you know, what you'd see on those computer screens was very dull. And I think green, from memory, green flickering text, it was really quite dull and horrible. And that was only 1991. So, you know, times then moved on. I moved into radio. And I love this photograph because some of you will remember John Conte, Henry Cooper and Mike Reed. And that was at a charity golf day. You can't quite see it, but the kit for radio, I then went into BBC Essex, was what we called a ewer, and it was reel-to-reel. It was tape, not digital editing. We actually recorded, like we do today with a microphone, but it went onto tape, like this. And the best bit about tape was the editing of it. So I would go away, I would record on my reel-to-reel, I'd come back to the office at BBC Essex, I'd get my tape and I'd bung it on the tape machine just like this. The tape actually, the spools weren't so big. And then to edit, you'd go, and he said, ee, ee, ee. That's the bit I want to get rid of. I'd get my little Chinograph pencil, I'd mark it, I'd get a razor blade, cut it, stick it together with sticky tape, and I'd throw the edit on the floor. And by the end of an edit, I'd have a mountain of spaghetti. And then I'd go, oh my God, the bit that I want is in that mountain of tape on the floor. I'd go through it all, bit by bit, pick it up, and I'd run it over the tape heads. That's the bit, I'd stick it back in again. Now, if you want to edit something like that, you'll have edited digitally. Audio, video, you know, the speed at which you can get a story out into the marketplace is phenomenal. I'm going to come on to that in a minute. So when we were creating news, particularly if it was for newspapers, you know, we had to wait till the newspaper was printed. We didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have any means of getting that information out other than when the newspaper was printed. If it was a weekly newspaper, it was old news. If it was a daily newspaper, it was old news. We didn't have the internet, remember. Same for radio, you know, we'd have to come back, we'd have to take time to edit these things. In fact, if we wanted to do a live broadcast, we would have to take out the radio car. We'd have to put up this giant mast, we'd have to make sure there were no cables around, pylons, stick up this mast and then, you know, send it back to base that way. And we had something called a wooden Douglas, which was like a little bit of kit that you took around with you. And the speed at which things have changed is quite phenomenal. And yet, this is television. Not a lot has changed. The set still looks quite similar. This was at Look East, and still a bad hairdo. And I can't quite work out, I've got a keyboard, but I've no idea where the screen was. But you still have the paper that you shuffle, so not a lot has changed there. Then I left, and I really enjoyed my time working in the media, but I wanted to run my own business. So I set up Mosaic in Colchester, and when we wrote press releases, we would print them out onto headed paper. I'd run up the road with snappy snaps with my roll of film. Have you seen a roll of film? Yeah. Got one of those cameras, that's good. I'd run up the road to snappy snaps, get it printed off, and then I'd come back and I'd paper clip it to my press release, put it in an envelope with a second-class stamp. News would arrive 3 days later. Now, if I want to send out a press release, I can target every single media outlet in the whole world, like that, in a second, literally in a split second. That's how quick I can get information out. Who remembers this? Who's got TVs like that still? Anyone? Who's got cassettes still? Some?
No.
Did you hear Kylie the other day say she's just released her new album on a cassette? Oh yes, coming back in. Vinyl's back in, as you know. Tape recorders, VHS. And this I'm really, I don't know whether to be proud or ashamed of. Anyone heard of the Wayback Machine? If you want to see a website of old, go to a web address, the Wayback Machine, and you can see every incarnation of a website on a URL. If you want to see what your organisations look like visually, all those years ago, go to the Wayback Machine. Horrible. That was Mosaic's first website. I was delighted with it. I created it in Dreamweaver, but the fact is I can still see it on the Wayback Machine. It's pretty ghastly. I was very proud of my photograph there with Mike Reed and people. And now we do everything in WordPress, because WordPress is the most popular platform for building websites. We didn't used to. We used to use something called CMS Made Simple. But at Mosaic, which is very much a digital agency these days, everything that we do really revolves around the web being the core of all the activities that we do. So the other thing that's been quite interesting is the change over those years in the courses that we deliver. So in the old days, we would deliver press release writing courses. These days, it's all smartphone and iPad video skills and social media training. Podcast training. I was the first podcast trainer in the UK. My first client was 10 Downing Street, and that is in 2006. That's over 10 years ago now. It was very interesting to see podcasting come in, because it came in, everyone was interested, then it dived down. Why did it dive down? Anyone know what changed? Something else came in that overtook it.
YouTube?
Kind of linked. No, but video. So video on your mobile phone. So why do audio podcasts when you could do video? So that came in and that changed the face, and that's come back up again. So just already we can start to see in my lifetime how things have had to change and evolve to meet the needs of the audiences and the technology that's coming into place. And very quickly, from the time that I set up Mosaic, you can see so many different technologies that have come in our lifetimes, however old you are. Blogger, iTunes, LinkedIn, Facebook, Flickr, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Google+, Snapchat, and so many more. It's a phenomenal number. And every time something new comes in like this, as a business, all of us as an organisation, we say to ourselves, which of these are relevant to our target audiences? How do we communicate most effectively with what is actually now a very fragmented group? Particularly in, universities, Snapchat. The way that that's been used, and I've done some training with student unions, and I've seen some fantastic, phenomenal ways of Snapchat and how it's being used. And things like Instagram. It's very much a thing of the moment with young people. And if I hear someone else say to me, Facebook's on its way out, oh dear, poor Mr. Zuckerberg, well, what is there to replace it? Did I ever expect to see a full-page advert in a newspaper? If you asked me a year ago if Mark Zuckerberg can do anything wrong, I'd have probably said no. But now, full-page ads, we have a responsibility to protect your information. If we can't, we don't deserve it. And you can't, because you haven't. So, as we're seeing, there's an awful lot of concern over the way that Facebook is now being used. But what are the alternatives? That's a question I'm going to pose to you. And so, on we go. We suddenly found that we had all this mobile technology, audio and video capture. Suddenly you could do live video from your Twitter, from your Facebook. Streaming video, Netflix. Who here has got Netflix? Who here hasn't got Netflix? A few. Faster broadband, getting faster and faster. I remember years ago doing some stuff at Essex Uni about the work they were doing with broadband and the speed of downloads. And it's incredible the work that's going on here within our very own universities in Essex. Instant messenger, email, cloud computing and storage. And actually, if I want to record people, I can just as easily now do it through my mobile phone with a little microphone attachment, just like this. In the old days of marketing, so when I started Mosaic, this was how we reached our audiences. Newspapers, radio and TV. We would write press releases and we might take out ads or advertorials, which were paid for editorials. Outdoor media, so we would put campaigns on the backs of buses or in bus shelters or train stations. We would do newsletters and we would do direct mail through the doors of people's homes. We'd go out networking and we'd attend a few exhibitions, and that's kind of more or less what we did. And then suddenly we had to contend with digital. So marketing now is this vast beast where we've got the website that sits at the core of everything that we do, but then we need people to find not just the website, but the detail, the content, the courses that we need. If you're marketing from a university perspective or college perspective, we need everybody to come in and find the information. So suddenly it's all about content marketing or inbound marketing. We're driving leads in through funnel marketing. We get them interested, then we try to convert them with something. Online advertising, native advertising, influencer marketing and advertising, getting very expensive celebrities and paying them lots of money to market your product. We have social media, of which there are so many dimensions, the Facebooks, the LinkedIn, the Twitter, the Pinterest, the Instagram, and so on. Content creation could be copy, infographics, white papers, videos, blogs, photos. Then we need to really focus hard on ratings and reviews. Text messages, mobile marketing, and suddenly marketing isn't about a few channels. It's about multi-channel marketing, and you might have heard the expression mobile first. So when we look at the stats of all the websites that we look after, what's really interesting over the last few years is to see that growth in mobile use and tablets. Are people still sitting at their desktops accessing information? Well, the answer is yes, they are, and it really does depend on the profession of the kind of things that you're promoting. But it has had an impact. I'm going to set this against this backdrop here of what's happening with newspapers, because having come from a newspaper background, my father was the first editor of the Gazette in Colchester, and managing director. He was the chairman of QB, which was the printers. My grandfather was a newspaper man before him. My brother is in charge of circulation for NewsQuest's 100 titles, and I can see what's happening to newspapers, you can. Unfortunately, circulation of the printed title has gone down and down and down. But as my brother will tell you, and frequently tells me, they've got more eyeballs than ever on their material, on their content. Newspapers are still vital as cogs within our local communities to inform and educate people and entertain. However, when we want to advertise, do we go and advertise jobs in the local paper, or do we go online? Who do we go to? LinkedIn, Monster, Indeed, Read, all those. If we want to advertise a car for sale, where do we go? Auto Trader, online. The newspaper industry, unfortunately, knows that it's got a problem and it knows it has to look at that. And I don't want to comment on any particular newspaper because I think it's an industry-wide issue. So running a campaign like this, Stop Google and Facebook Destroying Journalism, is a bit late. It's happened because actually if I want to spend money with in advertising, I don't spend it with the paper anymore. I'll put it into Google ads or Facebook ads, to be honest. So it is a different world. And do we go out and buy newspapers where we used to? Well, actually, if you can get it all free online, why would you? You know, they've given it away. So there are lots of issues. And in fact, bizarrely, these are the right URLs to read these stories. And you can have these slides after with pleasure. These are some of the stories that have been coming out. So in 2016, some 198 UK local newspapers have closed since 2005. And then by the summer last year, with 18 UK local newspapers gone this summer, Google and Facebook need to act fast if they're serious about helping the journalism industry. So we saw that regional press advertising was down 13.2%, online newspaper advertising down 0.2%, yet the overall UK online advertising was up by 17.3%, and that was largely going to Google and Facebook. In response, Google has set up its digital news initiative, offering grants to news providers, and Facebook has set up the Facebook Journalism Project, which looks at ways to return more revenue to them. So there is a recognition that the world of the media has changed quite dramatically. But I know some of you have students who are interested in going into the media, and I always say, great, go for it. There are loads of jobs in the media, but they're not quite the jobs that you thought they were. You know, to write for a newspaper now, the jobs are very few and far between. It wasn't like when I was in newspapers, there were a lot more jobs available. But if you want something badly enough, go for it. But you might be found that you're asked to do the social media as well. You might be asked to do video. You're expected to be multi-talented. You're expected to have craft skills right across the piece. The world of digital isn't one dimension. You don't go in with one subject, one skill set. And I know at Mosaic, I'm not interested if people come to me. In the old days, I'd grab a journalist and say, yeah, you can write, that's brilliant. Now I want to see that they can create video. I want to see that they can do audio or can learn it or are willing to embrace it, because that's the way of the world. When we're asked to create content for websites, it's digital. So I'm going to come on to what we expect of students shortly, because I've got some interesting information and stats. But I'm going to now just do a little bit of future gazing in the world of digital into some of the hot topics. And I am one of the trainers for the Chartered Institute of Marketing's Digital Strategy Level 6 course. It's their diploma course. And I do that for a company called Academy for Marketing. And some of the subjects that we talk about currently are these things. And if you are teaching digital, you'll have come across these things. The Internet of Things. Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg, for playing kindly for us. Big data, virtual reality, augmented reality, speech recognition, chatbots, drones, and so on. Robots, artificial intelligence, automation. Actually, there's so much happening. People say, well, what's the future? And I'm like, no, just concentrate on the here and now, because everyone's trying to get to grips with some of these new things. We talk about digital disruption. I'll come on to those things in a minute. But Amazon was always considered to be the big disruptor. And you think, right, it's done its disruption, it's come in, it's created this very clever website that knows exactly what you want. And if you like this book, then you're going to want this book. And if you want this item, you're going to want this item. Originally, they were taking on big bookstores, particularly one in America called Barnes & Noble. But actually, now, they offer so much more. How many of us buy from Amazon? Oh, yes. You'll know about their drone. You know, I mean, is it a gimmick? Is it for real? I don't like the idea of drones coming to my house, because I don't know if I step out the door whether my head's going to be chopped off. But certainly within a warehouse, this notion that it's going to come along and do something a lot quicker and faster and better than a human being is something that's definitely being explored. And there's a whole story about it there. But one of the innovative things that Amazon have been doing, I don't know if you've come across the dash button. Have you seen this? This is weird. So the idea is that you can buy from the Amazon website all these little branded buttons. And what you do is you put them next to the products in your cupboards. So if you're an Ariel user, you would have a little Ariel button. If you like lots of cat food, not for you, for your cat, you'd have a little cat food branded with your cat food. Anything where, usually under a cupboard somewhere, dishwasher tablets, loo rolls, you can buy these buttons. And the idea is you push the button and you can order immediately when you've run out. So if you've run out of Bogroll, you push the button and a new order will arrive. And the only downside is that you have to have a massive multi-pack of it. So if you are going to order it, then it is going to arrive in heaps, in bundles. If you read this review, this Guardian reporter decided that he was going to have a go with all these dash buttons, and it didn't quite work out the way he intended, and he gave up in the end. But it's innovative. It's unusual. It's different. Is it the future? Is it what everyone's going to be doing? One of the things with the Internet of Things that we hear about is how everything is interconnected. And some of you may have heard about these clever fridges where you take your stuff out of the fridge and it automatically renews. It will order that product for you. Champagne? Fine. How many of us have got smartwatches? How many of us are wired up when we go to the gym? I don't know when I say when I go to the gym, because I don't. How many of us have got things with sensors? How many of us have got CCTV? How many of us have got anything, dash cam? How many of us, you might not know you're wired up, but you'll be surprised at how much stuff is wired up. And in fact, now you can get mirrors with, push buttons on the mirror, with mirror technology that does all sorts of wonderful things and plays you music. Everything, when you think about it, is linked and connected in some way. And so, one of the big questions is, as an innovator in a company, is what can you do that is now built into this Internet of Things where everything is interconnected? And a lot of this links back to the subject of big data. So there is this theory that there is so much data washing around. And of course, Facebook is a great example of this. It knows everything that it needs to know about you. It knows what you like. If you're not on Facebook, maybe not so easy. It knows what food you like. It knows what websites you're visiting. It knows whether you like gardening. It knows whether you like eating. It knows what you like doing with your mates. Loads of information. And all that information is being gathered about you and used in some way against you, as we've been finding out. Maybe to influence political elections, who knows? But there is a theory that it's going to be 50 times the amount of data that we currently have by 2020. So huge amounts of data, and according to this survey, only 0.5% of it is actually being analysed. So one of the projects that I'm working on with my CIM students is how can you use big data that's within your own organisation more effectively? What data do you have sitting in databases, often disparate databases? So someone might have a financial database and someone might have a marketing database, and yet the two are never joined up. How do we know if you've bought one product that you might like another product, or if you've come on one course, you might come and do another course? What is it that we can cross-sell? Because we've got that data on you, but we don't use it. So we're all sitting on these huge hunks of data with probably quite bad customer relationship management systems. And there's very rarely you find an organisation who's managed to get that sales function down to an absolute fine art. Virtual reality. I meant to bring in my, I've got them in my car, my Google cardboard goggles. Anyone know what they are? You come across them? So you can buy your own little virtual reality headset, but it's ever so hard to put together. I bought mine for 99p on Amazon and spent about an hour trying to figure out how to put this thing together, and then it's literally a Google bit of cardboard, and you shove in your mobile phone, and you can sit there and watch virtual reality. And would you do that? So that's what organisations are thinking about at the moment. YouTube now has its own virtual reality channel. Everyone's thinking, what can I do that's got VR in it? But then virtual reality is actually about creating a computerised landscape. And you're going into that landscape and you're part of it. And you feel like you are, I don't know if you've seen, where people have got all sorts of sensors and they're holding things and they might have got a sword in their hand and they're having a fight and they're playing games. Well, really, you are going into a virtual landscape. But it is being used in news. So, for example, during the Olympics, best ways to watch the Olympics in virtual reality. So you could go on and you could actually download these videos and look at them through your virtual reality goggle set. But it does mean that you've got to have the goggles. But people are also using them in all sorts of innovative ways, and it's not just about marketing, but in this particular case, using virtual reality for safety training. So putting your teams, your staff into that environment, so you actually feel like, in this particular case, you've fallen from the ladder. It's really very clever stuff. But from a marketing point of view, you can use that. You can say, look at us, we're different. We are showcasing ourselves as a very forward-thinking and innovative company. I mean, if I had £1 for every entrepreneur that we work with, and a lot of our clients are entrepreneurs, who say, we want to be different, we want to be the best, we want to showcase ourselves as doing something different. And funny enough, a company that I do some training with called Aqua Warehouse, they do spas, and they're really forward-thinking. And they've just put on their Facebook how they're now looking at using augmented reality, so something slightly different, which I'm going to come on to in a second, for their spa baths. So you can actually see what a spa bath is going to look like in your own garden, and they're going to be the first in the whole of the UK in their industry to do that, which I think is phenomenal. So everyone's trying to be different right now. Here's one for an event planning company. To be able to see what a room is going to look like by just putting on a headset and someone saying, right, now dress the room. One of the things that you can do is go on to, if you just key in IKEA virtual reality and IKEA augmented reality, they've got some great examples of how they're using it as well. But with their augmented reality, so basically you download an app and you hold your phone over a scene that is real life scene, like the Pokemon Go. Who did Pokemon? Who got addicted to Pokemon? No?
Kids did that.
Loads of kids did, didn't they? Where suddenly a little character would pop up. So you can actually start to place things in rooms and showcase what the furniture might look like in your own living room. A company here, augmented reality driving construction's creative reinvention. So sitting there and actually trying to see what something would look like once it's built, and then taking your clients around that. And it's also very useful, I think, in education. And here's a good example, maybe holding up an iPad and seeing something that comes into the landscape, a character that brings education to life. Who's got a smart assistant? Hey Google. Which one did you get? Google.
Yeah.
I've just bought one, but it's for my husband's birthday on Monday, so don't play this back before Monday, all right? It's for me, really. So the Google Assistant, you've got the Alexa or the Amazon Echo, you've got the Apple HomePod. The Apple one is really expensive by comparison. I went into a friend's house the other day and they're like, hey, come and play with our Google Assistant. And I was like, hey, Google, change the lights in the living room. Hey, and then they go red. And it's like, oh, God, this is such a toy. I want one. I've got to have one. It's really exciting. And it was like, hey, Google, play ABBA. And I'll just play ABBA. It's like really, really cool. And this whole voice activation, again, is just one of the techniques that people are looking at for the future of marketing, is how within your own organization can you use voice activation to bring something to life or to sell or promote something. Now, chatbots, I think, are on the cusp of becoming really big business. So with chatbots, what you're doing is you're programming in advance a series of responses to questions that might get asked. And the idea in some cases, you can just program it in and it will be exactly what you've told it to do. And in some, they're talking about the whole artificial intelligence, where it's going to learn from those answers, and then it will give different responses based on what your needs are, but from its own learning, so artificial intelligence. I have used a few recently, chatbots, just to test them out, and I have found them to be extremely poor. So I went onto a theatre website, I was asking various questions about venues and events, and it couldn't answer my basic questions. I went onto the CNN chatbot, it didn't work at all. He said, ask me about news. So I said, what's the weather like in England? It was when we had the snow. And it brought up a picture of Donald Trump. What? So, there's a long way to go, but of course, what happens when all this technology comes in that replaces people? What happens?
There's teething problems.
Teething problems, potentially, yeah, but what else?
People move on to different jobs.
Well,
Reduces the salary bill.
from a business point of view, it cuts your costs down. But this is what we're talking about. This is the future. according to this study, millions of UK workers at risk of being replaced by robots. Now, we've heard this for a long time, but actually it does seem as though we're getting a little bit closer and closer to this being quite a reality. So these are just a few of the many things that are evolving in our landscape when it comes to digital, and particularly sitting around the marketing of these things as well. What I thought you might find useful, particularly of those of you who are interested in digital strategy, is actually just to talk to you about digital strategy in practice and some of the frameworks that are actually used. I don't know if any of you who are teaching it use Dave Chaffee, his books, but Dave Chaffee is the guru of digital. And there are very few people you can say that about because digital is such a fast-moving subject, but he knows everything that there is to know, trust me. And I know Dave. He was also one of the tutors on my course, but also when I did a podcasting forum many years ago, he was on the same forum, on the same table and podium. And he has a framework called SOSTAC, which basically takes you through digital strategy. And I have my own framework, which, funnily enough, is called Mosaic. But I'll take you through it because it's a very similar framework. And I think it's really useful to understand what goes into a digital strategy when you're looking at the bigger picture. So I'm very lucky. I go into lots of businesses, and I'm able to work with the top tier on what their future looks like. So I have to understand what their corporate strategy is, what they're trying to achieve at the top first. And then sitting underneath that, you'll have the marketing strategy, of which digital forms one part, but for me, it's all about the integration. It's the integrated marketing strategy. You can't just have a website that sits on its own without all the other bits that go with it. So we start with the overview, and in any strategy training that you do, you'll always have the overview. It's the situation analysis, it's the where are we now. And the best way I can describe this to you is in visual terms, is to liken it to an archer taking part in an archery contest. So what an archer does is they'll go up to the line, and before they draw back their bow and aim at the target and have a goal or an objective, they look around them. They look around at the landscape. They look around at their competitors. I'll eye them up. Good, competitors. They'll take note of their environment. Is it raining? Is it good? Is it a good environment for me to be in to actually do my job? Maybe they'll look at their equipment, their suppliers. And so if you relate that back to the world of business, we look at everything and then we benchmark. Where are we at this very moment in time? Because we can't measure and evaluate success if we don't know where we're starting from. So we set our starting point, and that might include how many website visitors we've got, what are they looking at, how many downloads have we got, how many video views have we got. Be very careful with social media, what we call the vanity metrics, the engagement metrics. I've got so many likes, I've got so many shares, I'm a wonderful person, I have fans, I have friends. Because actually they might do nothing for your organisation apart from bitch about you. What you want to know is, does that lead to work? Does it lead to bums on seats? Does it lead to income? What is it driving into your business? So we take all these parameters and all these measurements as our starting point, and we look at our customers. What do we know about our customers? What research have we done about our different customer groups? And we create customer personas. And actually, I give my customers names. I will literally decide, are they Bob? Are they Mary? What kind of age are they? What do they like? What are their hobbies? What are their interests? And some people will actually go to the extent of creating cardboard cutouts to sit in their office. So I'll have a Bob and a Mary who are standing there to remind them who their customers are. And you're gathering all this data, and within it you put your macro and micro environmental analysis. So you do a pestle. You look at the political, economic, social, technical, environmental and legal issues. And right now we've got loads of those that are impacting organisations. We've got Brexit, we've got GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. We've got a whole load of stuff happening in the environment and the economy. And we set that framework so we know how the business is at that particular moment in time. And you have to say to yourself, if I'm going to grow the business from a marketing perspective, have we got the staff? Have we got the resources? Have we got the money to do this? Have we got the space to do this? Where are we selling things from? Do we need another shop front? Do we need more pages on our website? What is the current environment for the organisation? And we start with that in mind, so we benchmark. And then we have objectives. So what do I want now? We set SMART objectives. So what is SMART? Help me out here.
Specific, measurable, achievable,
Specific, measurable, achievable,
realistic,
realistic, and time-bound. Thank you very much. We want to be able to say that over the course of the next, and pick a small timescale, don't do a big one, but certainly from a digital point of view, 3 or 6 months is a good timescale. What do we want to achieve? We want to see visitor numbers grow from X to Y, i.e. 10%. We want the number of downloads to increase. What we do is we set a whole load of KPIs, key performance indicators, based around different parts of the customer journey: acquisition, conversion, and retention. Or the acronym that Dave Chaffee uses is RACE, which is reach. It's how we bring people to a website. It's the act, it's what they do on the website, and then convert. It's actually to get them to be a paying customer. And then E, it's the engage. It's how we hang on to them. And all the way through these different customer touch points, we do different things and we use different marketing activities. And people don't realise that. So we set our objectives. What do we actually want to achieve? Well, I'm a university or I'm a college. I want to get more people onto my course. How many people? Well, I've got 15 this year, but I want 20 next year because I know if I bring that income in, I know it secures our future and our survival. So that's what we're looking at. It's actually hard cash. We all want that. That's in any business, you need income. Unless, if you're a charity, you need income. There's got to be a reason for doing this. So we set our very clear objectives, and then we decide on our strategy and our actions. And actually, they're kind of intertwined. So the strategy might be, well, I'm going to have an email marketing strategy because I want to retain existing clients. Or it might be I want a content marketing strategy. Or I might want to do an inbound marketing strategy. Or I might want to do the whole lot. An integrated marketing strategy. What is it that I want to do to achieve my end goal? And within that, you have your actions, which are the minutiae. It's the drilling down to who does what, where, and when. And you might have in a Gantt chart or some kind of Excel spreadsheet. And I do mine very simply. I do a calendar, and I go March, April, May, June, July, August across on the top, and down the bottom side on the left. Down the left, I'll say digital. In March, I'm going to have a campaign. It's going to be aimed at this audience. And on my website, I'll do this. On your website, I'll do that. On my blog, we'll do this. On my social media, we'll do this. On my video, we'll do this. And all the way down with all the email, all the digital channels, and then underneath it, we'll have all the traditional channels, PR, advertising, so on. And we'll just literally do it in columns. What are we doing this month? What are we doing next month? What are we doing the month after? And don't go months and months and months, mile ahead, but keep it really, really simple. And information, that is really where you're going, well, what else do I need to know? And that is every other bit of information that you think is useful to this project, you put it into there. And then cost, because there's no point in doing it if you haven't got the budget. But you need to know, have I got the money to do a Facebook advertising campaign? Have I got the money to do a Google advertising campaign? What resources do I need to make this happen? So if you go back to your archer in your archery competition, he's sized up the audience, he's set his goal, he's taken aim, ping, he's fired, and you know what? He hasn't quite got it. Because in marketing, that's what often happens. It doesn't quite work first time. You go, you take your arrow out, you come back, ping, tish, you have another go at it. And guess what? It might not work. You might not get the bullseye. And you go back, and you do it again, and hopefully you then win the gold medal. Simples. That is what we do. In the world of Dave Chaffee, my guru hero, we have reach, act, and convert and engage. What he does, he breaks it down very conveniently into different activities at different points. So, for example, if you want to reach people and bring them to your website, these are some of the things you might do. Some search engine optimization, that's the organic SEO. Some pay-per-click, and it doesn't matter if you don't know all these things. Affiliate and partner marketing, online advertising, online PR, social media marketing. I found, even after all these years of doing what I do, I went on my training course, and this was the moment the scales fell off my eyes. I thought, you do different things at different points. I thought you threw everything at it at the beginning, and you don't. And then when you get people onto a website, you want to convert them. So actually, the way the website looks, the way the page is set up, the colours on the page, the buttons on the page, everything on the page, landing pages when you're bringing in people from an advertising campaign, all that is aimed at converting people to book on a course, to come to your college, come and do what you want them to do. Engagement. how we hang on to them afterwards. So it's got content marketing in there, but that actually might also be in another channel. It might be in your reach channel. You've got e-newsletters, so your email marketing, particularly now, is very much about hanging on to existing customers because you've got to get people to opt in, so they've got to have some interaction with you. Customer service is considered one of those key things, so that might be where your chatbots come in, or not. Mobile marketing, and so on. So we have a long list of things that we do at different points. And when asked in a survey, does your organisation have a clearly defined digital marketing strategy? And I can tell you this for nothing, is that most people don't. So if you think, oh my God, we haven't got one, don't worry about it. Because everyone does a little bit of something, but they're not quite sure what the big picture should be. Does it stop you from achieving some of your end goals? No, not really. What was it, 34%? Yes, it's integrated into our marketing strategy. 17%, yes, it's defined in a separate document. And 49%, so half, we're doing digital marketing but no defined strategy. Half of businesses have no digital strategy. But my point is this, it doesn't mean they're not using digital, just that they've got no clear goals or measurement or plan of action. So is having a digital strategy important? That's our question for later. Oh yes. And I know, one of the things I was asked to talk about was, what kind of skills are we looking for in digital? What qualities do we need? And some very helpful research has been done. Michael Page is a very big agency for recruitment. Very good, actually. I've used them before. How important are the following qualities when recruiting for digital roles? And what you'll see, I think the most important one, 45%. The key is at the top, critical. Very important, important, not relevant, but critical, 45% say hands-on digital work experience. So there's a message there for your students. If they want to go and work in digital, they need to get the hands-on experience. And actually, it doesn't necessarily mean they've got to have had work experience with an agency. It could be as simple as actually creating their own blog, showing what they're writing. I go onto Facebook pages when I'm recruiting and I see what people are talking about in their private lives. Am I allowed to say that? But it does give you a very interesting insight into people. If they're putting it out there publicly, it's there for everyone to see. What can you create that showcases who you are and how good you are, how clever you are, how different you are, how creative you are? Because we all want people in our teams who are able to do something that's just a little bit different and a little bit special. 24% said it was critical that you had a keen interest in the future of the digital industry, coming along to events like this, just to show that you're interested in the future. Social media experience was less critical, but 34% still said very important. All-round marketing experience, funnily enough, less, but 38%, if you still add it up, that's half, more or less, 55, one all-round marketing experience, and then commercial awareness. So all those factors are actually considered to be critical, very important, and important, by and large. So what are the barriers to staffing a digital marketing team? We come back to that lack of previous work experience. You've come for a job and you've got no experience. No, that's not really going to work. Unable to find capable digital talent. And it is a real issue, actually, even getting young people to be able to spell these days. Sorry to say, but for me, it's an absolute no-no because I don't have time to sit and check everything that goes out. I mean, we always have 2 pairs of eyes on everything in our team. It's a golden rule, but I want people who can get it right first time, every time. In addition to the above barriers, hiring managers say that sorting through resumes is time-consuming and that applicants do not differentiate themselves from one another. I know when I see a really beautifully designed CV that comes in, it's going to attract my eye far more than a really dull Word document that no one's put any effort into. And what are the most desirable skills? Now, analytics. It is an art form in itself, but if you've got a computer brain or a maths brain, it's a no-brainer. It's a brilliant world to get into. That whole social search engine optimization, it is very difficult to do it right and to do it well. And I'm very lucky I've got a search engine specialist in my team, and the 2 of us have learned, well, he's been doing it for donkey's years, but he's taught me a huge amount. Mobile marketing, email marketing, content marketing, social media, all these are very, very desirable skills. And it says there's still a massive chasm between what is wanted and what is achievable. So the talent gap Here we see it, you know, analytics mobile. Basically, it's saying the missing skills. You can see that there's a very big gap between, you know, what people want and what there is out there. So it's not an easy one to see. But it just gives you an insight into these are the kind of skill sets that people are really interested in. And here, the top jobs in online marketing. So this is a survey that was just looking at the keywords that were in job descriptions, digital being obviously one of the most important. But these are, I mean, you know, you've got search in there, but obviously PPC and SEO and analytics are all part of search. But it just goes to show that digital and search is really high up there, far more so than social media. So a lot of people go, oh, I want to go into social media. I want to do, you know, blogs every day, and I want to do little posts on Facebook and be creative. Yes, that's great, but actually there's loads and loads of jobs in the world of search engine marketing. What do I look for? Great communication skills first and foremost, written and verbal. So if you've got a student that you really want to push and you know that they're really talented, that you think that they've got what it takes to stand in front of clients, to talk to them, to give them lots of ideas and share their expertise, both written and verbal skills, definitely push them towards the world of marketing, I would say. But they need to be creative as well. So a bit of right brain and left brain would be great. You don't always get that, but what you do is you do need problem solvers, someone who can see something through from beginning to end. You're all looking like going, yes, you fit that bill, don't you? Tenacious. You want people who are really passionate. Maybe this is what you need in every industry, I don't know, but I know that this is what I look for. Do you know what? And I don't look at qualifications. I don't go, oh, look, they've got a first-class degree from Oxford. No, it doesn't mean anything. Believe me, you know, to me, it's all about the person and what they bring to the pot. They need to be passionate. They want to really be interested in learning because it's ongoing. It is non-stop. You know, every Monday we are learning. We have a learning session after our morning meeting. Relevant skills for the role. All these things, graphic design, web design, analytics, video, copywriters. There's so many different skill sets that you can bring into the world of digital. And actually, you know, if you've got a finger in more than one or two of those pies, then great. So really, a quick summary. Some businesses have great digital strategies and some don't have any, but they still survive. And it's a great career, but you do need to keep on top of this very fast-changing digital landscape. And that is a whistle-stop tour through my world of 30 years.